Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the only YouTube channel on the internet. I hope you're doing well. And if you're new here, what up? What's poppin'? Come inside. Come inside, young Padawan. It's time for me to talk about Act 2 of the Wano Arc. General thoughts before I start getting into specifics. Oh my god, so much is going on. There are so many plot lines and threads and stuff that are just like all over the place in this arc, and I can see now why there's like 100 chapters left, because holy shit, there's just a lot happening. I can definitely tell that as soon as Act 2 started, Oda was just like super excited to get all these things started, and there's just so much that immediately takes off. All the characters are off doing their own things. There's so many characters coming into the story. There's a lot just like convolution that is just introduced almost immediately at the beginning of Act 2. And that's okay, because Oda is a master at this kind of stuff, and I know that he has a plan of bringing it all together. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is that we see Blackbeard again, which is hype because he is always exciting to see in the story. And we see that he's talking to Moria, who I thought for sure was dead, but I guess he's still alive. I honestly can't really remember what their conversation was about, but the thing I want to talk about is something I've been kind of cooking up in my skull right here. Something that I've been thinking about, something I've been scheming a little bit about, and perhaps this is a thing, perhaps it's not. Blackbeard has this weird ability to take other people's devil fruit powers, and now people in his crew are also doing that, because we see that someone in his crew has the clear fruit that Absalom had way back in Thriller Bark. There's only one other character that I can think of that got a power from someone else. Big Mom? And how did she get her power from someone else? She fucking cannibalized them. Is Blackbeard army hammering these people? Is that how they're getting these powers? When he threw the sheet over Whitebeard in Marineford, did he straight up just fucking stab him with his fist to the chest, rip out his heart, and go fucking army hammer on that bitch? Like, what happened there? I don't know. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe I'm crazy. Who knows? Not me. I definitely don't know at all. This is just a random thought I had. Anyway, piggybacking off of that, I'm going to talk about the clear fruit. Just led me to this thought here, because the clear fruit, Sanji said it was his one and only dream so that he could go and spy on women. He would have given up his entire dream of finding the all blue if he could just have the clear fruit. And it turns out that his Germa 66 powers, his Power Ranger upgrade, gives him the power of invisibility. I honestly didn't think that he was going to end up using the armband so quickly. It happened really fast, and it happened because he basically was intruding on this Yakuza boss of the Soba industry, I guess, and this guy threatened him, and Sanji fought back, and because of this, the connections that guy had to the government, there were all sorts of threats happening to the other Soba shop owners, so Sanji had to step in, and to cover his face, he uses the Germa armband, and he becomes the true Chad lad of the series, Soba Mask. And it's at this point that we find out that Trafalgar Law is a certified weeb. And he talks all about how he read all of the Germa 66 comics when he was a kid, and he knows all the details. He's one of us. I knew it all along. Law is one of us. And of course, after that, the first thing Sanji thinks of doing is going and spying on women in the bathhouse, which, by the way, that entire scene in the bathhouse was just... Oda, you goddamn horny bastard. What are you doing? What are you doing, buddy? The longer that this series goes on, the hornier that Oda gets. It's truly incredible. The way that he has progressed in his horniness. I mean, okay, listen, if I'm being serious, it's like... You know what? I love the story enough, and I love the way that he has written most of the women in the story that I am okay with overlooking it. But man, he is just so horny lately, and it is sometimes a bit much, like that bathhouse scene. I think that entire subject would probably require a whole different discussion, but I just want to mention it in this video because it's worth at least mentioning, I think. Going back to the subject of Sanji, who he ends up actually fighting is X-Drake, and we finally get to see X-Drake's power, and he has one of the dragon fruits, and it's like this dinosaur model. I can't remember exactly which dinosaur it is, but I think this is an interesting thing within the story. I don't think X-Drake is all that interesting, but we see multiple variations of the dragon dragon fruit. There's the dude who's like the or not Triceratops. That's totally wrong. I can't remember I can't remember dinosaur names. Okay, sue me. I don't know. But he's the guy who fucking does the torpedo headbutt onto Big Mom later. We've seen all sorts of dragon fruit models, and I think that's a cool way of just bringing that dragon theme into the Wano army sort of powers. It's just an interesting way of thematically tying this entire antagonistic force together. And once again, following this weird, strange trail that I'm going on, trying to talk about this arc, I already mentioned the Big Mom thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about Big Mom real quick. So when she arrives, one of Kaido's like top commanders or whatever literally flips their entire ship over and could have killed Big Mom right then and there, which is crazy to think about. And I was slightly, I don't know how I feel about the entire arc of Big Mom showing up and then she has memory loss, which I don't think that's just some random thing because we've had like flashbacks where Big Mom has memory loss, so it's not just some random thing. But it just felt so like out of place within the whole arc. I mean, I was like excited, like, oh, Big Mom is here. It's like introducing yet another thread into this already insane arc, but it just felt so strange. And like the whole thing of her like being with Chopper and them, and then she ends up at the prison and is just going on this rampage trying to find food. It just was so like, it was kind of jarring amidst everything else that was going on. And I don't necessarily have a problem with her being there or the plotline existing. It's just like amid everything else, it felt kind of out of place, like I was saying. And then she ends up getting captured, and when she awakens, we find out that her and Kaido used to be on the same crew, which makes me wonder, whose crew were they on? Like, who was the captain that they were a part of their ship, their crew? That's like, it's not Roger, right? I don't know who it could be apart from them that would produce two emperors. But they don't take very long to start fighting. In their fight, it was really cool to see them split the sky again, like when we saw Shanks and Whitebeard clash way back and way before Marineford even. Cool to see them clash, but then they end up forming an alliance. I am terrified by that because A, why are they forming an alliance? And is it really just to take down Luffy? Is that the whole reason they're teaming up? I don't know, but it's scary nonetheless that both of these people have decided that they're just gonna work together now. Like, goddamn, can the odds be stacked even more against our protagonists at this point? But this entire Big Mom plotline of her eventually joining up with Kaido is just a microcosm of this enormous web that is being built here during Act 2 of setting up all the key players for this enormous clash that I'm sure is to come in the next act. Because at this point, there are just so many players that are in the mix here for Wano, and I'm sure there's even more that are probably going to end up showing up. We've got the Red Scabbards, we've now got the prisoners, we've got like the Yakuza bosses, we've got the Straw Hat Pirates, we've got the Heart Pirates, we've got all of the Supernovas, we've got two Emperors. Like, there's so much going on. So many people are involved in this fight. We've got the Minks. God, there's still people that I'm forgetting. I'm sure somehow the Navy will get wrapped up in all of this. It seems like everyone's kind of connected to this by like one or two branches, so I don't know exactly how far that's gonna go. But it seems like Oda's kind of cooking right now, bringing everything together. Anyway, let me back up yet again, and I want to talk about Zoro now, because he has had one of the most interesting plot lines in the entirety of the Wano arc so far. So he's still just kind of wandering around, and he ends up on this bridge, and he's being stopped there by this guardian warrior, and he's fighting, and it looks like he's going to probably win, and then we have this third person show up, who at the time, we don't know who it is. I'm going to get to that in a second, actually, but we don't know who it is, and he fights off both of them, and it's a really good fight. He ends up getting stabbed, and the guy's like, oh, I can't pull my sword out, and then he, slices him to bits, and then we find out that the woman that was being, like, harassed or whatever by that guy is Momo's sister, which, by the way, I totally ship her and Zoro. I need it to happen. I need it to happen right now. I present Exhibit A. They needs to happen. They need to do things that Oda can't show in a kid's manga. All I'm saying is, if I was in her position, I would be going for it. Who wouldn't? Let's be honest. Who wouldn't be going for it? I mean, look at this man. Anyway, Zoro like recovers from that and he ends up in the mix later at a different encounter, but I'm gonna skip ahead actually real quick and talk about the fact that he gets a new cursed sword from the blacksmith guy who crafts the swords, and with this sword, he can slice like an entire plateau in half and it like withers his arm, but that requires him to get stronger and he's able to like will the life force back into his arm, which is crazy. And this is perfect because it gives him a chance to get a power upgrade, which is something that Luffy just got here in Act 2. And I figure since I just mentioned it, I'm going to jump back to the event that I was talking about when Yasu is crucified. When Yasu was first introduced, I did not know what to make of him. I was a little unnerved by the entire village of people that was just like laughing all the time, and his child, who was also laughing all the time. I was confused by it. I thought at first that it was just like a part of their like culture that they had established, like, oh, they have such shitty life, they're just gonna laugh through it and try and see the positivity in life. It ends up being way darker than that, but at first that's what I thought it was. Yasu kind of pops in and out of the story for like 15 chapters straight. He's just kind of around and he's doing stuff and he's being kind to people and he's giving compliments to people and he's kind of sticking his nose into the plans and trying to get things to work. And then we find out very quickly that he has been like attained and he is being crucified publicly in front of all these people, and that was not the turn I was expecting at all for his character, because at this point, nobody recognized him. Everyone was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who this guy is at all. And you find out that he's one of the central daimyos that used to support Lord Odin way back when, but nobody recognized him because of the horrific things that happened to him and the fact that he's lived in poverty for so long and that he's aged 20 years. These people just didn't recognize him anymore because so much had changed to him physically and emotionally. And he delivers a powerful speech in which he basically gives the most selfless act that a man could give in a show of loyalty to the plan that everyone has created, in this selfless act to basically sacrifice himself so that the plan may go on and so that nobody else is taking any of the heat except for himself. Oh my God, this man is incredible. This is one of the things that Oda is so good at. This is one of the best examples of what he is good at in terms of introducing a character, giving you little to no information about them, but giving you just enough to give you interest in the character. And then in the span of like 5-6 pages, he makes you so invested in what they are doing and in their entire story that you cry over them. And I hate him for it, but I also love him for it because it's incredible. And then as this guy is dead on the ground, all of the villagers that rushed there to try and stop what was happening start laughing at him. And I was like, oh, is this just like some kind of ritual that they have now that they're all dying of malnourishment all the time? Is just like laughing when someone dies to show the joy of being alive or something? Again, it's way darker than that, because we find out that the smile fruit only works like 1 out of 10 times, and the other 9 times, the person loses the ability to show any kind of emotion apart from humor. Holy shit, dude. And that's why it's called the smile fruit. God damn you, Oda. I was always a little confused at the name of the fruit, and holy shit, Oda delivered at giving me the explanation to that, because the entire event there was just so heart-wrenching. Yasu dying, the villagers rushing up, hopeless to do anything, and then they start laughing, and it's such a confusing moment, and then we get the explanation. It's like this big mic drop moment of like, yeah, bitch, it's super dark what's happening right now. And I think this is actually a really key moment in the Zoro plotline that I was talking about, because up until this point, he's been helping people just because they need help. But here, he is seeing someone display innate, powerful loyalty and this such a selfless act, which is something Zoro himself would have done. And I think his respect for this entire mission, for the man himself, Yasu, and for all the people involved skyrockets in that moment. And then we have the hilarious moment where both him and Sanji dash in to try and protect the little girl, the guy's daughter. They both look at each other, they're like, huh? Classic Zoro and Sanji rivalry moment where they both dash in to be the hero, and they both kind of are the hero simultaneously, but they're competing to see who can be more of a hero. And while we're on the topic of the smile fruit, we find out that the swordsman that Zoro fought back on the bridge was Killer from Kid's crew. This is a character that I had little to no investment in. They've only shown up like a handful of times, like intermittently throughout the story. But I can't help but care about him now that he has gone through this horrific transformation of eating the smile fruit and, being basically incapable of showing emotion. But really, where my investment comes from is seeing how much Kid cares about this guy. And Kid is someone who I also didn't care about all that much. But seeing the emotional response that he has to one of his crew members going through this horrific thing is really endearing, and it makes me care about both of these characters quite a bit in the span, again, of like 3 pages when we find out what happened there. And actually, I just had a thought, thinking back to Yasu's death, and then the Robi, I can't remember her name, the woman that was so beautiful that the whole entire city was like in love with her. They both died, and like lots of other people have died in this arc. I feel like Oda has gotten to the point where he's just okay with killing NPC kind of side characters. Just he's killing them left and right now, and especially pre-time skip, everyone stayed alive. Now, if you're a new character, you're not necessarily safe. Okay, I need to backtrack one more time to finally talk about Luffy. So he's thrown in jail at the end of Act 1, and then we find out at the beginning of Act 2 that he has this like rivalry going on with Kid where they're trying to do more prison labor. That's such a... That is such a fucked up sentence. They're trying to compete to do more prison labor. But it's because through doing prison labor, you can like get rewards for food or whatever. And Luffy gets so many of them that he gives some of them to this old man who is starving. We find out that that old man is like the biggest Yakuza boss of all time. But after the old man's life is threatened, Luffy steps in to intervene, and they both end up getting captured. It doesn't take long after that for this to just become a full-on training arc, which is definitely not the thing I thought was gonna happen with Luffy's storyline in the prison. Because Luffy, being Luffy, tries to make the best of the situation, and after him and the old man are caught, they get these collars put on them that was used on the slaves back in Soba Odi, and so they're pitted against all different kinds of guards and prisoners, and basically the rule is if you step outside the arena, you die, or you stay in the arena until you're dead. And so Luffy's just trying to use this as an opportunity to get stronger, and he finds out that old guy Yakuza boss dude learns or knows stronger haki than Luffy does. So Luffy's trying to figure out how to get stronger haki, and he's just beating dudes up, trying to figure out how to activate that ability within himself. And I was actually thinking about it. This is the first time that we've gotten like anything resembling a legit training arc that wasn't the 2-year time skip in the entirety of One Piece. And it only took us 930 chapters. That's no big deal. I actually don't like training arcs all that much, so I was happy that it was just kind of this side thing going on to upgrade Luffy, but it was also interwoven with a bunch of different other stuff that was going on, like Big Mom arriving and finding out that this guy was a Yakuza boss and getting him on their side and convincing all the prisoners to join. So the training arc is really not a training arc. It's just something that's interwoven within the larger narrative that is occurring within the prison. It's definitely something that was needed. I mean, Luffy did get fucking one-shot by Kaido back at the end of Act 1. He's gonna need some kind of an upgrade if he wants any sort of a chance at winning that fight. Oh, and another thing about the prison arc, my boy Caribou is back. He's not really my boy. I don't really care about this character all that much, but for some reason, I was just like, oh, this guy's back, all the way back from Fishman Island. He's back in the story, and for some reason, I was happy about that. I don't know, he's just like this slimy dude. I don't necessarily hate him, but I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here, buddy? And the last thing that I want to talk about before wrapping up is the fact that we find out that Zoro's opponent back on the bridge, the guardian angel of the bridge, actually is like this fox spirit that's defending all these swords that were left there by samurai of old. And for a while in the past, one of the red scabbards was basically unearthing all these swords in hopes and wait for this exact day so that they could arm their entire army of samurai. It's just this really cool world building moment that really reflects the culture of Wano and kind of shows the sanctity and how sacred they believe these swords to be, and how nature itself has sort of joined their side as pollution runs rapid through Wano, and all these different forces are converging, including nature itself in some ways. But man, oh man, Act 3, I am so excited for it. All these different players and factions and groups are ready for war. It is the day of the raid on Onigashima, and everyone is prepared and ready to go in for this enormous fight. I don't know if, like, the next 100 chapters are about to be just all-out fucking war. I have no idea what's in store for me right now, but I am excited because the setup for Wano in Act 1 was already incredible, and this just further develops all of the things that needed to be established before having just the most epic fight war of all time. And I'm sure that there's even more to be set up and more to be introduced before we really get into the thick of things. So I am super excited to get into Act 3, and I'm probably just jumping straight in tonight, and I'm gonna be barreling ahead. I am terrified of catching up because it's not necessarily that I'm scared of being a weekly reader, but like just the idea that like everything I've gone through this so far and everything that I still have left, like this is the last time that I'm ever gonna read this stuff for the first time, and that is, I'm not emotionally ready for that. But it's coming up quickly, and when it does, I will move to just doing weekly videos covering whatever chapter comes out. I have a ton of ideas for One Piece related videos that I'll be shooting and putting out once I'm caught up. I'm also going to start covering a different manga weekly, which look for that in the coming days. I'm going to be putting up a poll with a short list of manga that I'm interested in reading and that people have recommended to me, and I'm gonna let you guys, my audience, decide what I read next. I'm still gonna be making plenty of One Piece content, but I have a lot of ideas for other stuff that I want to get to, so I want to take those journeys with you guys too. Anyways, that's about it for me for today. Expect the next video pretty quickly. I think I decided I'm probably going to end up taking this into 3 different videos for the last act of Wano, because I was thinking about it. 30 chapters is probably a good amount for me to be able to cover everything. I'm assuming it's probably going to be pretty dense with a lot of stuff happening, so I'll probably have plenty to talk about. And until then, I hope you're all happy and healthy. I hope you're taking care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.